of DSSE. Now, before we start this, I would like to mention one thing. Community discernment is in itself would take a whole entire session. So we would not get into on how to do community discernment. We just mentioned about characteristics of it. Okay, so here we're talking about the characteristics and meaning of DSSE, because DSSE has been perceived for a long time as being impractical, too complicated, or even irrelevant. But now that we know how it came about, it took a long time. It took God a long time to shed light on this. And it took a lot of people to journey through the process for us to be where we are. And why we are one apostolic community that needs to do it. We can take a look at the actual meaning and characteristics of each step. Then we may discover that it may not be complicated at all as we have thought. So let's start. The first thing is some characteristics of discerning. I'm going to send it all through so that you can take a look at it as first is discerning. The very first characteristics is the most important. It is important because it is the main stumbling block that have prevented DSSE from happening at all. And it goes against our natures of being individuals, the American psyche of individualism. And that is to pass on the ownership of a wonderful idea on doing something that we really want, have a passion for, to the group. We want to pass on that ownership. I no longer own that, even I love it. And this requires a high degree of humility, because the group may end up sending somebody else instead of me. But the fruit of these things is internal freedom, the joy of being free to respond to God. And it requires that we trust one another in the group, that all will sincerely listen to the Holy Spirit and His movements as we embark on community sermons. And if the group discerns the work as it belongs to the group, then the group now assumes responsibility in seeing it through, the entire group. Responsibilities come with ownership. Many thought that discerning is one step, but actually discerning is the foundation of the entire proceeding. Not only that we discern whether to take on the task, we must also discern on whom to send and how to support those that we send. And it is an ongoing process. It's not done in one session and done with it. Beside the group, each member of the group, each one of us also needs to discern individually on how to assume the task given by our group and by community discernment process. Next comes sending. It is both an act of decision and commissioning. The group discerns, the group decides through consensus on what may be God's will. The group then sends members to carry out that course of action. Then commissioning members to work with the laboring Christ in building the kingdom, to change the world. Trust is now elevated to the level of having faith in one another. We don't just trust, but we have faith. And all will be in contemplatives, in action, in carrying out the mission, meaning that we're always in or seeking to be in communion with God, with the laboring Christ in the things that we do. So therefore, this thing here is naturally inherent, that for each work that we do, that we journey together, and we continuously discern and continuously support those we send. So sending is much more than just a prayer. It is much more than the rituals that we do. It is about sharing one's life with others. Of course, with reason. The support step may be the least that we live out. Maybe because the discernment did not even get there at all. We are familiar, oh, okay, we will support you. But how? We never get there on the how. And this is more than a rituals. As I say, it's more than just, oh, we will pray for you. It is much more than that. It is about assuming whatever task needed for the mission in supporting those who directly do the work. We are in this together. It's about continuously asking, how is it going? How are you doing? What else do you need? Our life change all the time. Situations varies. But like the poor widow in the temple, we put in our 2 coins to support the mission. And for the mission, it is also a continuous discernment. So you can see that discerning, it carries through the process, carries through the proceeding into supporting. Lastly, evaluating. And this is the thing that we tend to forget. And for the first question that we normally ask, this is the common things of evaluating. We think to ask this question, was God present there? Or did it go smoothly? We're evaluating in this aspect of it. Now, the first question, was God present there? Of course he is, because he's everywhere, in everything. To ask these questions, to evaluate, is not really evaluating. It's like asking, when the sun comes up tomorrow morning, how about did it go smoothly? Well, what happened if it doesn't go smoothly? Would that be God's will as well? We don't know. So this is not really how to evaluate. But so how do we evaluate? Primarily, evaluating is about how we are following Christ. How each one of us in a group on this mission following Christ. That's the question that we should ask in evaluating. And it's not about success. Sometimes God wants us to fail. You know, have you ever, let's say, for example, today, we organized this webinar. None of us know how many people are going to show up. What happened? Only 1 or 2 people show up. Does that mean that it's not really God's will, that what we're doing? So success is not the key, or failure is not the key either, but about continue asking one another, how is it going? How are we recognize God is at work? Because we are invited to labor with Christ. This is about sharing the fruits of the journey of serving others and the grace received. And here is about receiving God's love for others. The very end of the exercises, the contemplation to attain God's love for others, the people we are invited to serve. And the question, how is my relationship with God, with others through this work? That is important. And just like Saint Teresa Avila said, I do not accept any prayer that does not lead to more, that doesn't lead me to love God more. And the same thing here. If I do the work, but then I don't get to love God more, or I don't see that rising in my heart, then something I have to put a check on. And in the work, how was God glorified more? How was I become more compassionate? It's all about love, evaluating. Of course, there are the practical aspect of that we need to take a look at. How to do it more efficiently. Do we need more resources? Sure, but this is the very essence of that. How is it going? To see how Christ is at work. So, all right. So now it's your turn, Lois.
Okay, thanks, Liam. I think what I want to do at this point is just invite any comments or questions out of the whole frame of what Liam has talked about. It might be a comment about something that just really caught your attention, or something that you want to ask a question of Liam or the group. And I will watch the Q&A, but you can also just jump in and unmute yourself and raise the question. And if somebody puts up their hand, Paul will let me know that. So what questions do you have? Dominic?
I really resonated with the opening statements on the part of the reality, and much of that needs to be addressed. But in talking about DSSE, I'm seeing as he is speaking primarily about mission as distinct from community or spirituality. And I think this is one of the difficulties that people have in when do we use DSSE to discern what we're going to have for the next session of our community. We do discerning, but we're not going through the SSE part of that process. Mm-hmm. So it does raise the question, unless we're dealing with mission or service, DSSE doesn't come up strongly in what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Liam, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think I have found that a lot of people thinking that we have to wait for something big, some work that is huge, so that we can do the DSSE. Well, I have found that it's not the case, because there are many things that we can do DSSE with. For example, the group will meet and it can decide, or wonder to decide, whether we can meet once a month or once every 2 months. A very practical thing. But we tend to equate discernment with mission, and mission equating with work, some work. But it's not. It's about love. It's about how do we bring about our energy to live as Christ, to love God. So in this aspect of that, if the group wonder about doing once a month or once every 2 months, that's also a cause for DSSE. It's the way of living. It's not a way of doing mission or doing a task. So that's what I'm thinking. And if we look at it as a way of living, then it can be so rich.
Sylvia, you had your hand up. Sylvia?
Yeah, I'm trying to get my mic. I guess you can't hear me.
No, we can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me. Okay, good.
We can hear you.
I was, us introverts take a while. And Liam's very first screen got me to thinking that DSSE is a lot like using Zoom. Sometimes we don't know if our microphone is on or off. We get disconnected. I went to the chat and I went to Q&A, and it said it was not working or was disconnected or whatever. And I think that's what happens with DSSE. We know it has great potential and we want to use it, and we try to use it, but when it doesn't work exactly the way we think it should, we just go on to something else. And I agree with Dominic in that oftentimes we wait for those big moments for discernment, because real discernment takes a long time. And and most of the time we have business to do. We want to get out of the meeting. It's like getting late. Let's do this. And discernment takes time. But because, like I said, I think it's a little bit like using Zoom. I really agree with Liam. We have to use it all the time, because the more you use it, the more adept you become at it, and then it becomes more meaningful and more life-giving. But it's not that it's difficult to use. It's just that it takes time. We're not going to always get it right, especially at the beginning. And I really think that that it's true. We just have to keep at it. It's an important tool. It's a tool that, for the most part, I think most of us, and this is just an observation, have used like the cherry picking, like I think Liam said earlier. We use this one this time and this, but when we put them all together, it takes time, but it's fruitful. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Thank you. I think for me, the introduction by the world community of the 3 rounds of sharing is one of the ways that makes it possible for us to do it all the time and really learn how to discern together, so that when we need to do a formal DSSE, we're already practiced and we've built trust. We have time for one more question or comment. Anyone else? Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Jim O'Brien.
Okay, Jim.
I'm here listening with Dominique and very grateful for your contribution, Liam, but I think I'm going to side with my friend here. I think that there are so many details connected with a true DSSE process that it really can only be used profitably and efficiently in larger questions. Just the interaction, let's suppose our group is 8 people. Just the interaction that needs to go on in a continual sort of way that the process might be followed through by the group. I don't think we have in our small group meetings that many occasions when such a thing could happen. And we're talking about, it would seem to me, sending somebody to, let's say, Nairobi to meet with and be part of a particular group there for 6 months or 2 years or whatever. It's something that requires ongoing interaction amongst all the people in the group. Don't think that happens all that frequently.
Liam?
Well, that's very true. Those big things don't happen very often. But I have this example. Marie, Lois, and I met and we talked about things to do for the formation, or guys formation in particular, and what we do for the next topic on webinar. So we talk and we discuss, and we came about, okay, we need to do the DSSE. It seemed to be a lot of people are talking about that. So, okay, so we decided, okay, we're going to do it DSSE. So discernment can be quite natural in that aspect of that. It doesn't have to be so formal. Now, the big thing, like send somebody over to Nairobi for 6 months, of course, it takes a bit of a formal. But here, because the 3 of us are already in the spirit of discerning, so that came about. And then the next thing is, okay, so who's going to do this? So 3 of us talk, and then finally Lois said, Liam, why don't you do it? I said, you want me to do it? Yeah, why don't you do it? Okay, I do it. So I did. I was not really prepared, but I did it because the group thinks that I would do it. I was not prepared. But you know, the wonderful thing happened, especially today. We talk about that. We got Marie to dig our materials, and we read over it, and we put out together a framework and all that. But this morning, Lois and I had a talk at 8 o'clock in the morning to finalize it. And you know, during the talk, and I have this prayer in my head that I pray that, dear Lord, pour the love that you have for the community on into my heart. You know, and this is the most wonderful thing ever happened to me this morning. It's about that love, that God has the love, this wonderful love, this tremendous love for our community. And I receive it. So, in a way, the way I think, the way that Lois, Marie, and I interact, in a way, it's a DSSE. Mm-hmm. You know, after this, we're going to go and talk on another session, debriefing one another. But the main thing about that session, as has happened in many, many times among the 3 of us, is the question is, how have you seen God at work? Mm-hmm. What did you receive? You know, and when we share that, That's the most wonderful thing, because we find we're more in communion with God. We find that we bond together in this love of serving others. That love binds us. And I think DSSE is mainly about that. It can be for little tasks that we can be very much spontaneously walk ourselves into, or it can be a very formal because it requires much more information to make a conscious decision on. But either way, it's a way of living. It's about a way of receiving God's love, a way of being communion with the laboring Christ, and a way of being union with one another, to share the life that we have, the part that we can share. And so, yes, it's true both ways. We don't have the big things come very often, but we have many little things come very often.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the little things, the ability to really be with each other in a discerning way, because our little group is not a CLC community, but it is a working group within CLC that tries to operate as a discerning body. And so as we build trust in each other, we have more capacity to really do a DSSE at the formal moments that we need to. And I think that's what happens in our local communities too. To what extent are we building that kind of trust with each other as we work? I am conscious of time. I wish we had more time, but in about 2-3 minutes, I want to turn it over to Marie to end the evening with us with an awareness examen. But before I do that, if I could just invite you to reflect back on the evening and just think about, we will send out a formal evaluation. I'll ask Paul to send that out. Hopefully we'll catch all of you because I don't think everyone registered. But if you could just think for a moment, what is it about this evening? What is it out of this evening that I want to hold on to? I want to bring more into my life and my community's life. And just, catch that and maybe jot it down, put it in the journal, bring it into the awareness exam that Marie's going to lead us in. Take a minute or two and just think about what do I want to hold out of this evening, and then Marie, after a minute or two, if you go ahead and just start.
You may want to do the conclusion, Lois.
I'm going to let it go.
You can let it go? Okay.
Let it go.
So I ask that we pray for light as we enter into this consciousness examen. To be thankful for this time that we've had together this evening. To ask for the light to review this time that we've had in the last hour and a half. What struck you? What gave you more light, more confidence in whatever was shared? Speak to your heart as to what feeling might have come forth from our sharing this evening. Are you listening or you're responding? We listen to. Perhaps to choose one, whether it was positive or negative, and even put that into the evaluation that you'd like to send in. And we know that God is present with us now, and we ask that God continue to be present with us individually and collectively, especially in our grouping this evening. And I'd like to end with this prayer on fidelity. Fidelity consists in walking at God's pace day after day, with enough vision gained from discernment to keep moving forward, and enough flexibility to change paths when the gentle breath of the Spirit leads us where and as it wants.